Those are the only ones we know about. So number 3, and last, he's incredibly generous with his time and gave up tickets to see the Golden State Warriors play yesterday and took time away from his wife and kids and dogs, Crouton and Hobo, and from running his agency, Erich Kallman, to be here with us. We're lucky to have him. Everybody, Erich Kallman.
If I talk like this from this position, can you guys hear me through the mic? Yeah. Okay. This is my first slide. It says, "Hi guys, I'm Erich." The Brazilians last week were right. I am awesome. I watched the first 5 minutes till they stopped talking about me. And then, what's the guy who knows Jay-Z? I don't know Jay-Z. But I know another guy, and he made a fun video because I figured I'd include a lot of video in the presentation. So let's open it with a video.
Hello, VCU Brandcenter. Look at your speaker. Now back to me. Now back to your speaker. Now back to me. Sadly, he looks nothing like me. But just because he looks like Matt Damon and Shrek Had a Baby doesn't mean he doesn't know a lot of advertising stuff. If I were you, I'd listen to every one of his wise words with the focus of a mentalist trying to bend a spoon with his mind. But I'm not you. I'm a rich Hollywood actor person who needs to get back to being awesome. Stop bending spoons. It's wasteful.
So I think this is probably the most important thing that maybe second most important thing I'll say all day. When I went to college, I undergrad in communications, and I thought I wanted to be in broadcasting and work in journalism. And I worked like a crazy person doing this, and I interned everywhere I could, which was the best thing ever. Because when I graduated, the only thing I knew is that I didn't want to do journalism. And so there's people I know in Brandcenter that this statistically has to be true. That you're going to work hard and go through this program and make friends, and you're going to appreciate it. And when you're all done, you're going to know you don't want to do advertising. And that is okay. When I started advertising right when ad school was kind of like becoming a thing, and I could only afford to go to a Miami ad school in San Francisco, where I'm from, for 1 quarter. And I think out of the 20 people in that 1 quarter that I started with, I think I'm one of 3 still in advertising. And that was like 15-ish years ago, which isn't that long, right? So just know that that's okay, because I felt like if someone told me that when I was an undergrad, I would want to hear that. So just know that. This is probably the most important thing I can say all day, and it's really simple. All right, how do I say this, guys? I said it so well last night. I had the beers, you should have been there, guys. I haven't been doing this for that long, right? I started looking for a job in advertising in 2004, and I got my first job in 2005. And back then, it was basically pre-social media. And the big difference there was that everyone at ad agencies were huge assholes. And it was horrible. And people treated everyone in any higher position, just treated people like horribly. Like stuff that I could tell you that you'd laugh about, and then other stuff that you'd be like, holy shit, really? It's like true. It was terrible. And on top of that, what you guys have now is so fantastic. The fact that social media ended people being assholes. And the fact that ad school is so developed that you can, you have these placement programs where people come to you and they look at your book, right? That's amazing. So when I started, we didn't have that. I just had this portfolio, and I had no money, and I was desperate, and I really, really wanted to make it work out. So I guess my big point here is that you guys need to have a little bit of that desperation. It's great that you're not going to work in this horrible world where everyone's trying to poop on your face and be horrible to you. But if you bring even like 50% of the total desperation to make it work to when you go and look for a job, you're going to be like miles and miles ahead. So when I started looking for a job, I went to Kinko's. This is back before you had a website, and I could afford like 30 printed versions. And I made an A and a B and a C and a D list of the agency that I wanted to work for. My genius idea was I'm going to mail it. You physically mailed it back then, to the A list and give it 3 weeks before mailing it to the B list and then the C, because I was like, this is genius, because then the people at the place I want to work most will have it longer, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I was maniacal. So everyone I ever spoke with at school, I bugged to death, and I bugged their friends, and I found people on Creativity Online, and I would email anyone who did work I liked. And I had this list of 50 agencies, and I sent hundreds of emails to people, and I would keep track. It was awkward, right, in this notebook. And it was like, when I worked them last, what I said to them, blah, 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 blah. Because that was the only way back then to get a job, right? So like, I went like crazy overboard, ended up getting a job I really liked. But I guess I'm telling you guys this because you're in this world now where I could see myself, if I were you, being like, well, I have my portfolio together, and now it's the portfolio review day, right? So now I'm going down, and someone might like me. And I'm gonna go, this person likes me, so that's my fate. That's where I'm gonna go. I guess I didn't go to the place I wanted to go more, but that's just, they didn't want me. You know what I mean? You don't be like that. Just keep bugging everyone. And also know, like, you should email everybody you want to know in advertising. And just know this, if they don't write back right away, it's not because they're like, hate you and think you're dumb, it's because they're busy. Like, everybody wants to help you. You could never write an email to somebody in advertising and be like, I'm an advertising student, I really love your work and I really want to be like you. Everyone wants to help you. So just keep pestering people on emails, pestering them with phone calls, show up, literally, do anything and everything. It might feel awkward, it might be not like your natural personality, and it wasn't mine at the time, but like, it helps you, trust me. And then, what's my next point, guys? I have notes here. When I said it doesn't stop after your first job, it's continual. So here's another thing, right? You guys get paid, not a ton, but way better than what we got paid, and people are nice to you now. And so I could see that leading to a situation where, you hang out at your desk and like, I might get a brief, I might not. So when I got my first job, I didn't have a partner. There was only one TV brief in the creative department going on. So I stayed till midnight till everyone went home, and I physically stole the brief from the other guy's desk, and I photocopied it, and I started writing as many ads as I could, like nonstop, because I had no money and didn't make enough money to eat, and I came to New York, and I'd never been to New York, and I was like, just desperation, right? I didn't do it to be mean to this other team. I did it like because I physically needed to sell ads to get a raise to eat. So it sounds kind of desperate, but it's kind of true. So you guys, I'm not even trying to be like dramatic, but like do that stuff. If you're not on a brief, I'm not kidding. Steal it and photocopy it, and go to a creative director. If you come and say like, "Hi, I have a bunch of ideas for you on this brief," and they're like, "You weren't assigned it," they're not going to say no. No, I don't want to see all these ideas. Do you know what I mean? Just do that kind of stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I was going to tell a story connected to this point. Like, there's a guy, I won't say his name, who's not even that good. And he met a guy named Jerry Graff, who's a big famous actor, at a party. And he had, Jerry Graff was drinking a beer that he liked a lot. This guy, every Friday afternoon, sent by messenger a 6-pack of this beer to Jerry Graff every Friday afternoon for 4 years. And finally, it came to a point where I was working under Jerry Graff at the time, and we won a bunch of business. We needed people fast. And this guy didn't have the best book ever, but I mean, that kind of perseverance and that kind of persistence, like anybody's gonna cave, right? This guy, who might not be the best, got a job in a really good creative department at the time, had parlayed that into being a well-known CCO at a very big famous ad agency in New York. So just know that like all that stuff is part of it. And if it makes you uncomfortable, just get over it. And the more you do of that, the more it'll benefit you. In my actual notes here, it says, I'm not lucky like my sister says, because my sister always said, you're lucky. I'm like, no, I worked really hard for this, and I get mad. Anyways, here's the next thing. Your goal isn't to work for a place, it's to work for a person. So your job, this is, everything I say today is going to sound super simplified, guys, but it's just super true. Your job is to generate ideas, period. That's your only job when you're hired as a junior creative. And you're going to work for a creative director. That creative director is going to pick one of your ideas, maybe mold it, maybe combine it with a different idea, and make it into an ad, and that becomes your book, and that dictates your future. So, of course, there's some great agencies like White & Kennedy, I think the best agency in the world, and it is awesome to work there. But when you guys start thinking about where you want to work and who these people you want to bug are, you should just go on to Creativity or somewhere, look up every ad you love, and start looking at credits. You know what I mean? And maybe not the guy who owns the shop, like Dan Whiten, course you want. But look at who's the creative director, the acting, working, like day-to-day creative director on that work. And if you start writing that stuff out, you're going to see patterns start to form. And you're going to realize, I didn't know it, but these 4 different people made all my favorite ads. So that's, guess who you start bugging? Those people. It's really good so far. I'm kidding. Okay, so next point. I'm gonna make, my first job was at TBWA Shite Day in New York. Jerry Graff hired me, and I wrote all the Skittles ads when those crazy weird Skittles ads started. So here's like some of the first thing I did out of school. Oh, I'll turn off the lights, right?
Good. Good. You're in Mansfield. I have a cousin from Mansfield.
That's nice.
Your resume looks good, but we're looking for someone with more experience.
Experience. Oh, funny.
Share the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
Hey, Tim, show Joel how everything you touch turns into Skittles.
That's awesome.
Is it awesome? Well, you can't hold your newborn baby boy in your arms. Did you feed and dress yourself this morning? I did. I met a man on the bus today. I shook his hand. He'll never see his family again. I guess that's pretty awesome. Excuse me.
Touch the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
Is this what you were looking for? New chocolate-flavored Skittles?
I'm really sorry.
What did you think was going to happen, Stephen? Did you think you were going to hit me with that bat and little chocolatey candies would come pouring out?
Yes.
I have to buy my Skittles downstairs. Like everybody else! I'm just like everyone else!
Chocolate the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
So, like I said, I started at Shy Day, New York, and that Skittles campaign is the stuff that, the first stuff I wrote and made and did and stuff. This is probably point 2 or 3 of importance. And again, it's going to sound simplistic, but it's just true. So I finally got a partner there at Chiat, and we would write so much. They used to brief in one 30-second Skittle spot, and they would put 8 teams on it, and you have a month, and the best script wins go. So it was madness. Now, people don't do this anymore because that's back to the horrible overworking stuff that was more common back then. But even though it was horrible to go through, like when we finished our last Skittle spot before we went to Wyden, it was that Pinata one, and we decided to go back and count how many scripts, not ideas we jotted down, how many final scripts we had typed up and read to our creative director. And by the way, back then, like if you had something that was like not complete or like a half thought, they would like hold it up in front of you and go like, you want to take $300,000, go to Los Angeles, spend $3 of our lives making this crap? You know what I mean? Like it was horrible. So like, it'd be like buttoned up. So we wrote and presented 267 scripts, independent ideas. Just that round when we made that one Pinata spot. Now doesn't happen anymore, but I'm just trying to illustrate the hard work point, guys, and I know this is lame. Like, me and my partner sat across from each other in a cubicle, just writing all day, and then we literally bought 2 folding lawn chairs, and because we worked in Manhattan, and on Saturday and Sunday, we would sit in the same position facing each other in the lawn chairs in Central Park, drinking beers, writing. That's all we did. And when we went to Wyden, Kenny, Portland, again, this isn't some kind of like, look at me, I worked hard thing, but this is honest, you guys need to hear this stuff. So that Malcolm Gladwell book came out. What was it? What's it called? Outliers. Outliers. Okay, remember that 10,000 hour thing with the Beatles? So we were reading that on a plane to the thing was, Malcolm Gladwell was saying like how much, putting in time and repetition, like mastering a craft, how many hours it takes. And he had this theory that it takes 10,000 hours, because I guess the Beatles started and they went to Amsterdam or something, and they played all these horrible shows every night nonstop for 3 years. And at the end they did the math and they played 10,000 hours worth of shows before they like went back to England and like made their first album, something like that. And I'm like, Craig, this is crazy. I wonder how, I'm like, we just were in New York for 3 years. How long do you think we worked? And we did the math, and we tried to be super honest and like not inflate it or anything. And when we finished doing the math of how many hours we sat writing scripts, it came out to like 10,047 or something. It was super freaky. That guy might be right. He has crazy hair too, Malcolm Gladwell. But you guys just, I don't know, I'm telling you guys this stuff just to know that your job as juniors is to come up with ideas and move on to the next one. So it's really easy. You guys do this all the time, because I used to, and I even did my first job, is that you get an idea, and oh man, like you have some good ones, but this one is awesome. And after you think of that one, you kind of like take a break, and you get some chips, and you check your email, and then you get back and you're like, we're gonna think of more, but let's talk about how awesome that one is. And then you're like, actually, you can probably stop today, because that one was so awesome, and that's gonna be the one we do anyways, because it's really good. That's the hardest thing to get over, but you have to just put it aside and pretend you never thought of it and think of the next one. Again, like when you present ideas to your creative director, it's like having balls in like a lottery. You know what I mean? And the more balls you get in the lottery, the more chances that you get picked. I wrote this thing once that my friend laughed at, my friend who owns an ad agency. I said, advertising is the art of totally caring about every assignment, every round, caring more than anything, and then the second you present it, you don't care anymore, because you go back and you're about to do it again. Do you know what I mean? If you get caught up on, I can't believe he didn't like that idea, or I can't believe the client killed it, and now they're making it horrible, and now I don't even care anymore. That's not your job. Your job is to constantly think of ideas, and once the creative director asks for changes, or client asks for changes, you're going to constantly work at that idea until you make it even better with the right changes. Work hard, says Eric. So on that, we aren't all Steven Spielberg, and we don't have total control of the cute little films we're making. Clients do. So what's going to happen to you is that you're going to sell a commercial, and then the client's going to totally want to change like everything about it that you think made it good. And that's another time when you get all pouty and you'll hate everything about life, and you'll go get chips and check your email. But what you should do is just treat that like a new brief. Like, okay, we have to take this out, but we can make it even better if we did blank. And trust me, you can always make it better. One second. So I'm going to show a couple examples and talk about them.
It can be hard to know when you need a new job. As a rule, if you hate going to work every day, it may be time. If you hate going to work and your coworkers don't respect you,
hey, dummy,
it may be time. If you hate going to work, your coworkers don't respect you, and you always wish you were somewhere else, it may be time. If you hate going to work, your coworkers don't respect you, you wish you were somewhere else, and you cry constantly, it may be time. If you hate going to work, no one respects you, you wish you were somewhere else, you cry constantly, and you daydream of punching small animals.
Oh dear.
It may be time. If you hate going to work, no one respects you, you wish you were somewhere else, you cry constantly, you daydream of punching small animals, and you sit next to this guy, it may be time. If you make loads of money, it may not be time. But if you make loads of money, you hate going to work, no one respects you, you wish you were somewhere else, you cry constantly, you daydream of punching small animals, and you sit next to this guy, it's probably time, as a rule.
So I don't think there's one little, it's a bunch of vignettes that repeat, right? I don't think there's any vignette that got shot that was actually in the script we sold. This was a Super Bowl commercial, so there were tons of eyeballs on it. And everybody weighed in, so everybody has changes, and some you push back on politely when you can, but at the end of the day, you work at an ad agency, so you're an agent of the client. You work for them, they're paying you. So all you can do is try to beat what you had. So all those vignettes got rewritten like a dozen times, and there's a bunch of them. The funniest story is with that koala that got punched. And by the way, it comes from all places. Sometimes it's client, sometimes it's creative director, sometimes it's legal stuff. I think that one, if I remember right, it was Daydream of Punching Small Animals, and it was like a penguin standing on some ice, and it got punched, and it just like slid back, like 3 feet, like really kind of cute. And then we've sent a script to legal, and PETA is like, you cannot punch a penguin. And I'm like, it's not gonna feel like a real penguin. It's gonna be real, almost like a cartoon, like you can't punch a penguin. So then it became like 30 other animals, and then finally I said, okay, it's a koala. And for some reason, there was some weird loophole that I thought a koala would work. And they go like, no, you can't punch a koala. And I was so pissed, I remember yelling on the phone to the legal team. I said, well, he's gonna be a talking koala who wears glasses. And then they were like, they're like, wait, so we're talking about like a fictitious koala? I'm like, yes! It's always been fictitious, you idiot. So just so it'll drive you nuts, but really, just know, like, if you sell it, every time you can make it equal or greater or worse, and just always, it was so hard for you to sell the idea in the first place, put into the work to make it just as good, if not better, if that makes sense. My old partner from Shite Day and I, we went to White and Kenny in Portland. They had just won the Old Spice account. This was the first thing we did there. This was our first Old Spice commercial.
A man. And I smell like a man. But sometimes I like to smell like a different smelling man. Point is, men need a variety of scents. So Old Spice makes a variety of scents. But I don't use them.
Because I'm a woman.
Just kidding. I'm not a woman. I use all of them. Because I'm a man.
It's so funny because that spot's like 10 years old, only like 10 years ago, but that line when he comes in and he goes like, I'm not a woman, dismissively, it's crazy. It's so weird how like even 10 years ago, like the consensus was, well, yeah, he's being a jerky dude, but it's a lighthearted joke, and now if like someone presented that to me, I'd be like, that's crazy, we can't do that. Anyway, so that spot we sold, we went and made, and so I guess the lesson here is, don't think about clients as adversaries. Like, they hired you to work on this thing. They like you. They want this to work out as bad as you do. So when they give these little comments all the time, just kind of work with them and see what happens. So this was one of the first Old Spice commercials that White and Kennedy did. And it was funny because the brief was about a variety of different scents, so a bunch of different products. So when that guy walks out after the golf ball hits, the woman pulls off the mask, and he's holding like all 10 bars at once, you know? He was holding one bar in the take, and the client's like, wait, cut. And they're like, guys, this spot's about variety. And I'm like, yeah, all he's doing is saying different scents 100 times. It's like, no, we have to show variety. So I said, okay, he'll just hold all of them, like, perfectly. And so we glued them together and made that. And it's so funny how, like, clients help shape the way that campaigns develop, because that became like a thing. And like in every Old Spice commercial still, I think, like when they're talking about, like, they never hold one thing, they hold like a family of stuff. So we just made that up there, and the funniest thing was at the end card, we had it all set up the day before with all of the different scented things sitting in the sand there. And a thing comes up, it says different scents for different gents. And it's the day before the shoot, and the client's like, Eric, I can tell that this is about a variety of products, but it doesn't say different scents to me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're all different deodorants and they have different names and they smell different. They're like, how can we drive home scent? And I was like, well, I know how. A giant nose will come down and sniff all of the products. And then we went that night and the prop master made that nose overnight. And another thing, so when it comes in ad school, you're learning a lot about thinking of campaign ideas and executions. Writers are writing a lot of headlines. Art directors are learning a lot of art direction stuff. You don't really get to write and make as many videos as you think you would, as you do, videos the main thing that most ad agencies make, their end product. So I think my number one lesson for writing scripts, video scripts for online or for TV, is to take into account that it's a visual medium. So many TV commercials I see are boring, but at the end of it, I'm always like, that's just like a radio commercial and someone said it in the camera, You can show anything you want to grab people's attention. So the next three things I'm going to show are, I started an ad agency called Barton Graph, and we did kayak.com ads. And so how did we sell them through? We said exactly what the client wanted to say. It was always a conversation between two people about what kayak is and how, instead of searching in dumb ways, you can search hundreds of websites at once. And so this is the first I'll show you, this is the first commercial we did for them. So all I did was say what the client wanted to say in a way that was visual, that would break through and grab your attention.
What are you doing? The 5 of us are comparing hundreds of travel sites to find the best deal on my flight.
That's dumb. You could have gone to kayak.com and done the same thing in seconds.
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once and save on your next flight. Kayak. Search one and done.
Now, what people didn't realize about the kayak campaign is this next commercial I'm going to show you is literally almost like word per word, the same exact script. It's two people having the same conversation about kayak and someone in the commercial making the same exact point about kayak, but you just kind of don't take it in that way, again, because we give you something really engaging to look at.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
This is completely unethical.
My hours are unethical. I don't have time to sit around searching tons of travel sites looking for flights and hotels.
Just use Kayak. It compares hundreds of travel sites in seconds.
Well, I guess you're the brains of this operation.
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once. Kayak. Search one and done.
Here again, the same conversation.
Get out of here. I just want to see how you're always getting those great travel deals.
Kayak. It compares hundreds of travel sites at once to find the best deals on flights and hotels.
I got to email back about this.
Come on, man.
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once. Kayak. Search one and done.
So I remember when a Brandcenter grad, a guy named Joey Ianu, is that how you say his last name? Weirdest last name. Joey is what I call him. But he came in, and we're working on kayak scripts, and I mean, at this point we've done a bunch of rounds, and we know we can have so much fun with these basic conversations. And they kept coming in with these scripts that were so overwritten, not just dialogue-wise, but 30 things happened in a bunch of rooms, for no reason. And he had all these ideas that were kind of funny, but it was 10 steps. And I'm like, why do you need 10 steps to show something? And in his notebook, he had a drawing of a guy sticking his head out of another guy's sweater hole like that. In the corner of the book, I said, that's funny. And I sat with him and we wrote that script. You don't need much, guys. You just need one thing to grab your attention and then use that to communicate the brief. So that leads to our next lesson, keep it simple. So when I talk about writing simple scripts, I always like to show Little Caesars ads that I did. It's a really fun, there's two ways to write, right? You have a brief that's locked in from the client. Little Caesars is so literal, it's a good one to kind of share and teach. They have two briefs. It's either say that we have hot and ready pizzas for $5, or say that there's no calling or waiting, it's hot and ready to go. Those are the two briefs they ever do. So there's two ways at it. You can start right there and just say it and start getting creative. And that's what I'm going to show examples of first. So this is probably, the first one's probably still my favorite. I mean, this is as simple as it gets, guys. The brief is say that Little Caesars has hot and ready pizzas for $5. So the creative team started thinking. Someone walks into Little Caesars. They ask for a pizza. The person working at Little Caesars tells them, we have hot and ready pizza for $5. And then what happens? Something visual and breakthrough. I swear. Oh no.
Here's your hot and ready pizza.
Oh, hang on. That's the next one I'm going to show. Okay, guys.
One hot and ready pizza, $5.
Ready pepperoni pizza for $5, or a deep in dish rate only at Little Caesars.
Guys, that's a 15-second ad, and the last 6 seconds are showing pizza. That's a 9-second TV commercial. All we did was say the brief and show something that everybody liked to see. Next brief, hot and ready pizzas that are ready to go. There's no calling, there's no waiting.
Here's your hot and ready pizza.
No calling? No waiting?
There's no rules! There's one rule! Pick up a large, hot and ready pepperoni pizza for $5, only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
So look at these are juniors out of school writing these. Why could they start simple? You start on the brief, you give me something fun to look at, so I remember the brief. So they write them in stores. The next round we did another one where it's a $5 pizza. I could literally tell them, guys, start writing where there's two people talking. They don't have to be in the store. Okay, two people talking about a $5 pizza. Here's another 90-second ad.
I heard a deranged clown lurks in these woods. I heard Little Caesars has pizza for $5.
You heard right! Get a hot and ready pepperoni pizza for $5 or a 3-meat treat for $8 at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
And they kept working. What's another place? Where can other people have this conversation? How about a costume party? Are there funny things, visual things to do with costumes? Sure. So they ended up with this script, which I really love.
Hey, you guys hear about Little Caesars? They have pepperoni pizzas for $5, hot and ready to go.
Pepperoni pizza, please.
Pick up a large, hot and ready pepperoni pizza for $5, only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
So I threw in the next ad just because I was thinking about it when I was getting this deck together, and I'm like, what is the simplest commercial that I've ever been a part of? And we were doing this campaign. I was freelancing at the time for this furniture place called Value City Furniture, and they didn't even have a thought. The brief I got was show people enjoying their new furniture. I swear to God. And so I sat down with this junior team, and it was the first commercial they ever wrote. Nicest girls in the world. I'm still friends with them. And one of them said, so why don't we have a couple with a new sofa? And they say the sofa looks really good. And I said, that's great, place to start. And then he said, you know what would be funny if then they look at all their other furniture and it's so gross it makes them want to puke. And I'm like, okay, and we did this.
Old Spice,
Uh-oh. Not time for Terry yet. Hang on.
Hey.
Okay, here we go.
I love this new couch from Value City Furniture. So stylish.
Really puts the old furniture to shame.
Yeah, suddenly the coffee table looks oh.
You're right. I can't even look at it without...
Oh.
All we can do is make getting great style easy. The rest is up to you. Value City Furniture. Style comes easy.
So I'm going to start going from talking about executions more to talking about campaigns. So you saw the video at the top, the Isaiah Mustafa guy, my good friend now. I did all that stuff with him. Right after we did that campaign, the next brief we got with another Old Spice body wash, and it was called Odor Blocker Body Wash. And again, this is just to show you guys how simple to keep it. So working on this Old Spice, what were the rules on Old Spice? We have to have a spokesman talking to camera. And they wanted this to be about how powerful at blocking odor this body wash was. I said, why don't we just get a big dude who just blocks odor? And my partner Craig was like, what? I'm like, yeah, like imagine the word odor comes, and he's just like, block. And Craig's like, I don't get it. I'm like, no, he's like buff and awesome and just screams like President Camacho from the movie Idiocracy. You guys might not get that reference. And he's like, and my friend Craig was like, so he's just like blocking odor but just being awesome? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, and my partner Craig, I remember, he goes, so he's just like, odor block. And then he just like turns and kicks a building. He's like, building kick, explosion. And I'm like, yeah. That's literally what happened. And then we went and made this with Tim and Eric. Oh, jeez, guys. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and restart. Yeah, we saw you.
Hey.
We saw you.
I love this new couch.
Have a good one.
Old Spice Odor Blocker Body Wash is so powerful it can block BO for 16 hours. Its blocking power is as powerful as me.
Yeah, it is.
Who said that? Was that my left bicep? No, it was my... Odor Blocker Body Wash is too powerful to let this commercial in. Block! Explosion!
Slice body wash can't block odor for 16 hours.
What? This one does, dummy. It's super powerful odor blocker body wash. Old Spice odor blocker body wash. Block, 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 block odor for 16 hours. Odor blocker body wash is so powerful it can block BO for 16 hours. It's so powerful it can turn off the sun. But then it gets too cold, so it makes another sun. Double sun power! Old Spice odor blocker body wash has 16 hours of BO blocking power!
That's right.
Old Spice odor blocker body wash has 16 hours of BO blocking power!
It sure smells good in here.
That's because this blocks BO!
Sorry. Sorry about that.
It was super funny because when we got Terry Crews to say to do the campaign because he's a celebrity, you don't really get to like rehearse with him and talk about the role as much. He just kind of shows up to do it. And he showed up, and that guy is probably like the most put together, well-spoken, polished human being ever, you know? And he comes in, and I was talking to him, and we explained it to him. He goes, no, I understand the scripts, and I think they're fantastic. I'm like, thank you so much, Jerry. He's like, if you don't mind, I'm going to retire to my camper. If you would please send someone to fetch me 5 minutes before we begin shooting. I will prepare my body and we will make these. I'm like, okay, Terry Crews. And so it goes. And we didn't know. Like, I explained to him as politely as I could, like, we really want you to be freaking out of your mind, buff guy, rage, like roid rage guy. And he's like, no, I understand. And I'm like, but do you? Because you're so, I don't know. And he comes, the person goes and gets him right before they bring him in. He comes in that tiny little thing I'd never seen on him, all oiled up, just so worked up that he had like a twitch under his eye. And like, it was like in character. You hear about like Daniel Day-Lewis like being Lincoln during lunch. Like Terry Crews did this for that. It was so bizarre. And I was like, okay, here's your mark. He's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, and then at the end, how he goes, you know, power. I was explaining that it was at the end of the day, and we were holding a boom mic over him, and I was singing it for him so he could repeat me, and he was so into it. He got nose to nose with me, like actual physical nose to nose, like with like this hot breath, like raging. And I was like, power, and it was crazy. But he's also the super nicest guy ever. Okay, guys. Oh, so I showed you a lot of comedy stuff. You might be saying, sure, Eric, your literal rules of how to go about this are simplistic and literal and probably works for comedy, but I just want to give you an example of how these are universal truths. So when me and my partner Craig were doing the Terry Crews campaign, that same exact week, our good friends across the hall, who write all the good Nike stuff at the time, they were working on their campaign at the time was called Leave Nothing. Their brief was to do a football commercial for Leave Nothing. This is literally their thought process. It's as stupid, simple as mine is in the comedy realm. They knew they had to do a football commercial, so they were like, what if we get two awesome guys? Leave Nothing, so they're just running at each other and they hit each other as hard as they can. And they're like, yeah, it's almost like they've been getting ready for this hit. It's so crazy. They've been getting ready for it their whole lives. And the other one's like, why don't we show one of them running one way through their whole life, and the other one running the other way through their whole life to meet for this hit? That's how simple it is, guys. And in my opinion, I'm going to go back so it doesn't skip wrong. This is, I think, the best Nike commercial of that decade, and you'll never see it because my computer is failing. Here we go. So, dig shallow holes. So just like we're talking about executionally, it's a numbers game. How many ideas can you come up with to show your creative director, right? When you're working off briefs and thinking of actual bigger campaign ideas, it's the same exact thing. So at my agency, about a year ago, there's a new tequila called the Straw Tequila. They hired the most interesting man in the world, the old Dos Equis guy, to now be the spokesman for their tequila. And the brief to us was do something cool with the most interesting man, obviously. Use him. But we want to talk about how tequila, what sets it apart from all the other spirits, from whiskey and other things, is that tequila tends to be something people drink with people when they celebrate. So tequila is what you drink when you celebrate. So literally, I was sitting around with my friend who was there at the time, and I was like, we were just riffing stuff, you know? It was just like, I just won the lottery. And I went, this calls for tequila. And he said something else, and I said, this calls for tequila. And so that's literally it, guys. So this is the campaign.
Sir, you've just been gifted this beautiful Bible.
And?
It's a signed copy.
This calls for tequila.
The finest tequila.
A strong tequila.
Excuse me, sir? I just got off the phone with the chief astronomer. They'd like to name a star after you.
Which one?
The sun.
This calls for tequila.
The finest tequila.
A strong tequila.
So we did, 15 of those in one day. It was the most fun, simple thing ever. I was working on ragu once. What was their brief? Again, guys, this is how simple you keep it. They wanted to say that it's kids' favorite pasta sauce. So we needed a big idea about kids loving something. And we got to the point where some creative team came in and said, if you think about it, kids' lives totally suck. They have to, whether it's school, they have to do everything the teacher says. They have to ask permission to pee. They come home, they have to do everything their parents say. They have to it's like being in jail and it's horrible. But when they get ragu, they love it. And I said, so it's like a beer for adults. And they were like, yeah. And so we're like, why don't we make it like an old beer commercial, like from the 70s, about like after a long day of childhood, pop open a ragu.
Hey, Mom!
Oh no, guys. Why is this happening, do we think? Anyone know a lot about computer stuff? Lasers. All right, maybe this will do something.
Mom! Hey, Mom!
Oh man. Yeah, this is a good one, guys. Am I on the webs? One more try.
Mom! Hey, Mom!
All right, guys, this is going to be really bad because I'm going to play a bunch of fun songs. What else? Yes. thinking again.
No, switch it.
What do I do? Any email?
No. Cancel.
Nothing? What?
$1.
What do you mean by cancel? Just close it? I swear to God, I don't. You guys ever see the Muppet movie? The beginning of the Muppet movie when they're on the theater, like, oh.
Switch back to gas. Put it back on save.
Jack, what will we do without that?
Sorry.
Okay, try again. What's up? Hit refresh. How many Brandcenter students take to figure out the internet? Literally all of them.
Hey, Mom!
Parents in bed, but it's just 8 o'clock. That's why they taught you should always knock. You need to
A long day of childhood calls for America's favorite pasta sauce.
Is that really him?
Yep, he's all better. Your hamster was sick, now he's feeling alright. But his fur color's changed, it was gray, now he's white.
A long day of childhood calls for America's favorite pasta sauce.
So we're working on Go-Gurt at my agency a year or two ago. Go-Gurt, you guys know, in the tube. So they had banned it at a bunch of elementary schools. Let's learn about Exxon. So when I was doing the ExxonMobil Creates campaign, the Go-Gurt was a funny one. They were like banning it from school and it wasn't selling anymore because it's so hard to open that it would like explode when kids try too hard and teachers were ruining their scissors for real. So they spent $1 billion and got a new laser machine to make it like laser perforated. And they said, do a campaign about how it's easy to open. And even I was like, well, I love doing simple literal stuff, but this might be jumping the shark. But then we're sitting around, we're trying to figure it out, and we're like, looked at the brief, and it says, say it's easy to open. Who is Go-Gurt for? Third graders. So I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like last year, third graders were struggling to open these things. And now, third graders are like, easy street. So we thought, why don't we make some like grumpy old men fourth graders talking about how easy third graders have it. And we made a bunch of them, and I'll try to show you some. They look pretty funny though, huh?
Tim and Charlie, fourth graders. These third graders have got it made. Look, in our day, we actually had to walk and take steps. We lifted our legs. It made us who we are. And now they've got those new easy open Go-Gurt tubes too. I wonder if that third grader knows how good he's got it. I'm still wondering if he knows how to walk.
New easy open Go-Gurt. Kids never had it so easy. Tim and Charlie, fourth graders.
Third graders today, they don't know know how easy they've got it. Their new Go-Gurt tubes are easy open. Those things used to be impossible. And PE consists of sitting around on mats.
Now everybody breathe.
Hippies. What are they gonna work on tomorrow? Blinking?
New easy open Go-Gurt. Kids never had it so easy.
So what do you say? Reopen my presentation? Probably just do it now.
I'm Zach Braff here with some exciting news for all the young creators out there.
Get out of here, Kallman. We got Braff. Braffy's in town. Okay, so we've talked a lot about how you got a brief. How do I say it in a visual, compelling, simple way? You do that for a long time, you get stuck. What's the other trick you should do? Let me tell you. You can do it. I was taught this in ad school, and I was already kind of doing it, and I'm glad someone explained it, and it made more sense to me. This teacher called it the Rickety Ridge Road, which is a dumb name, but it made sense. And she called it that because she's like, yeah, sometimes I just think of the craziest thing I can think of that I want to go make, and then I try to connect it back to the brief. So examples of this, I worked on Skittles for a long time. You could imagine we would get stuck thinking of magical things. One time we passed a tailor shop. We're like, what if someone was standing in a tailor shop, and instead of 3 reflections, the reflections were 3 different people just imitating them? Because it seemed like a cool visual thing, and so then we wrote a script around that. So.
Wait, I'm not eating Skittles.
Hey, hamdi na wala tamngan. Nagugutom ako. Okay na ka iba. Nagugutom na ako, di kakain ako. Ay, kikil sa langyaw. Ano man ang lupa?
Reflect the rainbow. Taste the rainbow.
So the guys that, I have 4 full-time creatives at my agency now. They all are grads of Brandcenter. I asked them what I should show, and they all said show stuff that didn't sell, because they're really into seeing stuff that like we presented that almost sold the stuff. So there's this, I pitched a Super Bowl idea for Bud Light a few years ago when the aluminum cans came out, and I think this is a good example of just thinking of something different and connecting it back. So I'm like, what if we do a commercial that's like 100 years in the future? And they think that it's always been aluminum cans. They didn't know it used to be in glass bottles, but someone tells them it used to be in glass bottles. And then my partner at the time was like, well, who should say that? And I'm like, someone really Bud Lighty like Garth Brooks. And I said, that's cool. And then I said, but it's 100 years from now, so it wouldn't be Garth Brooks, it would be Garth Brooks' head. And I wrote this song, and this is how the commercial opens, the pitch Super Bowl commercial. There's a drawing for the pitch. This is how it opens.
I am Garth Brooks' head. My head is alive, but my body is dead.
Sorry. They laid down that track, and they're like, great track, Garth. He's like, cool, can I get some Bud Lights in here? The ones in aluminum bottles, and that's how the conversation started. Wasn't it always in aluminum bottles? Anyways. That led me to thinking about, I got the presentation together, talking about simplicity and sticking to the brief. And this is stuff that can help you guys sell the work, so it's important to know. And as I've done this for a really, really long time and written a lot of scripts, I started to realize that you can almost make stuff more creative if you stick right to the brief, but you make it a song, because songs are awesome. This is something personally I like to do, but I think it's a good way to illustrate how simple, how you can sell crazy stuff if it's right on brief. So, first example is a commercial I did for Fruit by the Foot. We've done a bunch of weird stuff. Their brief was, show the shape, Eric, show the shape. And so I opened it up and I put it on the desk and it looked like a snail. And I said, it looks like a snail. I'm gonna write a cute song about a fruit snail, but it always dies at the end because you eat it. So here's one.
Snail is adorable. My fruit snail is red.
I'm gonna let you take in the whole thing. I really like this one.
My fruit snail is adorable. My fruit snail is red. My fruit snail's really growing up. Someday it might be wet. My fruit snail is dying. My fruit snail is dead food.
I was pitching Chick-fil-A. Our first campaign we did at my agency like 2.5, 3 years ago was for Chick-fil-A. And we made a cool campaign that they liked, but this campaign I liked more. And they wanted to sell a new breakfast sandwich. And they said, guys, we want to sell a new breakfast sandwich, talk about it, talk about how awesome it is. So I'm like, okay, if there's a new breakfast sandwich on the market that people like, they're going to start buying it instead of other stuff. And then, you know how people have pancakes sometimes when they put a happy face? I'm like, well, what if we put a sad face, and it's a bunch of sad pancakes, and they sing a song, and this is the song.
Sad mornings.
Guys.
My fruit snail.
Hang on, where's my little...
It's a sad, sad morning. Sweet tears pour from our eyes.
This new egg white grill, it tastes so good. It's making pancakes cry.
Grilled chicken with a hint of citrus, a healthy choice that never gets old. Now no one is buying us, we're just sitting here getting cold. Nothing about this is okay. Thanks a lot, Chick-fil-A.
That would have been better, guys. I pitched TGI Fridays. This is a good example. I'm trying to go fast so this doesn't stick up again. Of how simple, again, simple. So their brief to us was, Fridays is a restaurant, but we want to be all about our bar. I said, a restaurant that wants to be all about the bar, so I started by writing some headlines. And I wrote, it's the place you go to eat when you need a drink. I'm like, that's fun.
Maybe you got a pink slip. Maybe you got a raise. Maybe you won your softball game or got stuck in an elevator for days. You know what you want at dinner time. Who cares what other people think? Fridays is the place you go to eat when you need a drink.
Try Friday's Bold Meaty Big Ribs. A full rack with 2 sides is only $12.99 at Friday's Kitchen and Cocktail Bar.
So we wrote a bunch of 15s. These were just songs to bring to life the scripts that never got made because no one ended up winning his pitch, which is super lame. But here are the 15 about a lady got pulled over and she screamed at the cop and she got arrested. But then she goes to Fridays.
You chose to run a red light. You chose to push your argument too far. You better place your one phone call and choose a burger from our new burger bar. Fridays is the place you go to eat when you need a drink.
So, kind of a little conclusion summary thing told through a story. This slide is called This is What Could Happen When You Do the Work. So, I tried to convey a bunch of really simple stuff, guys, but it's all super true. So I was, looking back, I think smart about being mega proactive right out of ad school and knowing people when I got into advertising, knowing what job I would do next, continuing that reaching out, that bugging people nonstop, which wasn't how I normally was, but I knew it would serve me, so I did that. And then on top of that, when I had jobs, I was mega proactive and I did the work, like I told you guys all about, writing to a crazy amount. So I got better and maybe faster than my peers. So I used that to get myself hopefully in a good enough place and working at the best place possible to let myself be a part of the Isaiah Mustafa campaign. So this is like a little story. People always ask about this, so I'll just tell you guys. So me and my partner had gotten to Wyden. We had done that first different scent for different gents thing. And Old Spice is owned by Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble does a ton of advertising. And so they ended up, with all their media buying, getting gifted 30 seconds in the Super Bowl. They had this Old Spice body wash, a big warehouse of it somewhere in the world, and it wasn't selling and they were going to discontinue it. But they thought, we'll make an Old Spice commercial for the body wash, and that'll sell out the rest of the stuff, and we don't have to make it anymore, to get rid of it. And so they came to us last second, me and my partner, and they came and they said, we need one of your Old Spice commercials. That means a guy talking to camera. I said, okay. Except for, we looked on Google, and it turns out that only women buy body wash, even men body wash. 90% of the people who buy male body wash are the wives or girlfriends of men. And so they said, make the guy that you always put, a spokesman in your Old Spice commercial, make them speak to women. And we sat down one night and wrote, hello ladies, Okay, that's the first thing I would say if I'm talking to a bunch of women. And then it just kind of came out, to look at your man back at me stuff. And so that was a big hit. And now there's all kinds of crazy stories about that commercial and how it shouldn't have happened. It started raining on us 10 minutes before we ran out of weather insurance, so we got this extra day to shoot. That one take that you see in the commercial, the I'm on a horse thing, is the last take on the last day that shouldn't have happened. Procter & Gamble, it was a huge fight to sell an African-American spokesman with Isaiah Mustafa. Terry Crews was after Isaiah Mustafa. That was a huge deal that like died 10 times in the process. We shot this thing like the day after Christmas, so when we did callbacks, usually you invite 150 actors to audition and 250 show up. We had like 15 people. And Isaiah was there. We called him back just because he was the only physically fit, handsome one. The guy who was in auditioning before Isaiah was waiting to go in. It's called being on deck when you're an actor. We were working with this guy before him who looked like a totally broke Antonio Banderas, who looked horrible, but he kind of said it in a funny way, like, look at your man now, back at me. And so we had nobody. We're trying to make it work with this guy. We knew Isaiah was coming in next. Isaiah, when he performed it in the first audition that we only saw on tape, it wasn't that great. I mean, I love Isaiah, but it wasn't that captivating. And he was sitting waiting to go into this room for so long, he was sure, like, this guy's got it, I don't got it. I'm gonna go into desperation. When you go to callbacks, you're supposed to wear the same thing, do the exact same thing you did the first time. So he goes in, and he had come up with this superhero voice on his drive over to the audition, this way of doing it. And so he comes in, and he looks really great and stuff, and he does the audition in this new voice we've never heard, and the way he does it in that spot is the way he did it, and like, we were like having a heart attack, like we thought we were gonna make the worst Super Bowl commercial ever. But he came in and miraculously saved it with that. After the spot was done and finished and made, Procter & Gamble, who are fantastic people, I hate to say this, but they didn't like it and they didn't want to run it. They literally didn't think the commercial was good. So they pulled it from the Super Bowl. We fought back and were able to talk them into, I think Dan Wyden, was able to talk them into airing it starting after the game for the rest of its media run. And it did so well, starting airing right after the game, that it ended up winning some of the Super Bowl polls that day, even though it wasn't on the Super Bowl. It was a huge, big smash success. I was just trying to explain how all I did with my partner and I prepared ourselves to be good at writing fast. We put ourselves in the best position we could by getting to White in Portland, and we were happy to be a part of this thing that unfolded. This was way bigger than any of us. So the commercial was a huge success. A digital guy at the agency comes to us and says, I'm going YouTube, all the comments on YouTube, instead of saying, awesome commercial, they're talking directly to the guy. They're saying, oh my gosh, I love you. Oh my gosh, you're so handsome. Oh my gosh, you're so cool. And he said, we should have him talk back. So I don't know if you guys know about the response campaign that we did after this, where we got in a garage, essentially, with Isaiah. And people who wrote to him on YouTube, on any social media, we had him respond to that person in little videos. And we wrote them live. And we just did it for like 2 days. And going into it, that was the biggest success of the whole campaign. Going into it, me and my partner Craig were like, oh, welcome to the hardest work ever for we thought it was this dumb thing that wasn't gonna work. And we just did it for 2 days straight. We were like in a bubble. When it was all done, Isaiah and I went out to, I think we did it for like a day and a half. So we went out to lunch and we were just exhausted. We were spent because we did like 160 videos. Just as fast as we could think of them. We just shot it next, you had a teleprompter. And we didn't think it was anything. And it turned out to be this really big deal that we're really lucky to be a part of. So this picture was after lunch. They called me on my cell phone. I was gonna go home and they said, Eric, come with Isaiah. We're doing a thing in the atrium. That's like the main meeting place at Wyden Kennedy. So I was so tired, I was like delirious. And so we got there and they had this all agency thing. And I don't know if you've ever been to the building, Wyden Kennedy, Portland, is just like, look straight up and there's like 5 or 6 balconies all looking down. And it was everybody in the agency and they were going crazy. And this crazy thing about this thing is that this response campaign, I mean, people who were answering the phones and stuff, all helped out and learned iMovie and started chopping up these videos and sharing them. You know what I mean? It was like a big project like you do in school. And someone took this picture of me while we had this big celebration of it when I didn't even know it was a big deal. And it turned out it caught on, it was a huge deal. And we had this big celebration. So that's a much skinnier me and Isaiah during it. And I just remember that moment is what I always tell people about when they ask me about advertising and what's exciting about it. Like, you'll all work hard and you'll get jobs and that's cool, and you'll make enough money to pay off your loans and that's super cool. And then you make even a little bit more money and you're like, I never even thought I'd make any money. I got some money. But trust me, and then you just keep going. And that doesn't matter. The reason I keep doing it is I get such a kick out of it is the same reason that you guys probably have, like, I don't know, once or twice a quarter here, is that you're working with like-minded people to make something cool, and then everybody likes it, and it's the best feeling in the world. So this is like my favorite moment, personally, like of my whole career. And I was just like, it was crazy. Anyway, sorry. But that's what you're going for, I guess is my point. You can always, don't worry, you get jobs and make money, but just keep trying to have fun and do fun stuff, and then you'll luck out and be a part of something bigger like this. I started my agency 2.5 years ago. We're in San Francisco. That's the office, which is more full of people now. Someone sent this picture to me. This is the first team. This is Jason and Mike, who went to Brandcenter, like you guys. And now we have furniture, and there's a bunch of people in there. But I guess what I'm trying to build is something you guys don't have to worry about now, but I've learned this working at bigger places for different people, is that, like, as you move up, advertising gets a lot different from this fun part that I just explained my little story about. So what I'm trying to build is that environment where we get like-minded people. And like when I did Barton F. Craft for the first 3 years, and I was so stoked to get to lead a creative department that all that work was like my book, right? It feels very similar. So now I'm trying to start something that's like a mini Wyden, where we get a lot of people with totally different voices. We all work together. We all solve problems with a spectrum of stuff. We treat people nice, but there's no rules. Everybody works hard because they're self-motivated, and to me it feels more like a club than it does a company. And so I'm just trying to keep that going as we grow. And this last slide says thank you, guys. Yeah.
So, yeah, I love all your work. It's really great. And like, you know, you're so consistent about getting out these like really, like, you know, for lack of a better term, like, you know, crazy, entertaining stuff. But like, you also talked about how you can occasionally run into like a lot of pushback, either be it from like the client or legal or what have you. I mean, how do you just keep on getting that through?
I mean, I think it's just persistence, right? I think one thing, there's a lot of good creative directors who are good at a lot of different things. And there's a way better copywriters and creative directors than me, but one thing I think I would give myself credit for is that I'm really, maybe my only skill, is that I'm really good at looking at the script, and even after a bunch of rounds of changes and a bunch of tweaks, before I show up being like, wait, we're gonna make this thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, is this as awesome as it could be? Because then it just keeps you going because you think about all the rounds you had to get to sell the idea, then all the rounds of revisions with the client,